Now, this is kind of ridiculous, but this is the type of video that I feel like is going to piss off more than one fan base, which I think is probably the best kind of video to be making. So, let's go over to a Twitter thread, not even a thread, just a tweet that popped up a few days ago that had a whole bunch of people here, especially on the West Coast where I live in Vancouver, all up in arms about this conversation about goaltending, the Pacific Division, and who really is, quote-unquote, the best goaltender of them all. This is what DNL at Oiler Analytics said on Twitter on July 31st. Jack Campbell, new Oilers guy, is the best goalie in the Pacific Division, and it's not even close. You could see the replies, the retweets, the quote tweets, the likes. There was a lot of traction on this one tweet right here. And for pretty good reason. I don't want to make it seem like this is like not deserved. Oh, you could just tweet out whatever you want. Nobody's going to call you out for it. But nah, Jack Campbell is, in the eyes of this fan, better than Thatcher Demko of the Canucks, better than Jacob Markstrom of the Calgary Flames, better than Philip Grubauer of the Seattle Kraken, better than Jonathan Quick in LA. You've got, who the heck is in San Jose? Is it James Reimer? And then in Anaheim, you have John Gibson as well. The thing is, there are some pretty alright goalies in the Pacific Division, so undoubtedly saying that Jack Campbell, former Toronto Maple Leafs guy and current Oilers guy, is the best, that was a pretty hot take, and we had a lot of people going out there and responding to this tweet. There's a tweet that I wanted to read here from Thomas Drance. This is an interesting one because it seems ridiculous, but if you look at the career save percentage numbers for all these goalies, I mean, Campbell is quite near the top there. Robin Lehner has a .917 in terms of his regular career save percentage. Campbell has a .916. Gibson a .915. Demko has a .912. Correction on this because Drance misread the line on Demko's NHL.com page. His career save percentage is actually .912. .915 was his save percentage from last season. Grubauer has a .914, Quick a .913, Markstrom also has a .912, so there you go. Jacob Markstrom and Thatcher Demko, two very elite goalies with .912 career save percentages, and Cal Peterson has a .908. Personally, for Thomas Drance, he would rank Demko, Markstrom, and Lehner ahead of Jack Campbell. Now, it's easy to say, wait a minute, Markstrom and Demko each have .912s, Lehner has a .917, so okay, he's better, but Jack Campbell has a .916 save percentage career-wise. Why the heck would you say that Demko and Markstrom are better than Jack Campbell? And a lot of that has to do with sample size. Now do the workloads and games started per season. Jack Campbell is a glorified backup, according to Grady, who was thrust into the Leafs' starting role because of Anderson's injuries. Drance replies, says that, yeah, it's a sample size issue that is a big part of this. Campbell has never even started 50 games. Being a workhorse starter is a whole different level than being a good platoon guy. And this is one of the things that I feel like the initial tweet was sort of lacking here, that Jack Campbell had himself a pretty alright year. Like, there were definitely moments throughout Jack Campbell's 21-22 where he did show off very well, and there was that 7-game playoff series against the Canadiens in 2021 where he was phenomenal. Still lost, but he had a .934 save percentage in 7 games. What more could you want? This player had a .914 in 49 games played, but there were some stints throughout the season where you could say he was either really, really good or really, really shaky. Campbell has been somewhat of his own worst enemy the past year and a bit, and when it comes to those down stints, it's very evident that Jack Campbell can really just lose the ball once in a while in a process that usually lasts for a few weeks or a few games in a row. Campbell just isn't in that position where I feel like he is a bona fide, #1, every single day type of starter just yet, in the same way that I feel like Markstrom and Demko are. Now you see that Markstrom and Demko have significantly lower career save percentages at the NHL level, and I could see why. Jack Campbell was given a few workloads here and there that weren't all too heavy, especially with the LA Kings and starting out his Toronto stint. He did very well in those stints, but comparative to Markstrom and Demko, these two guys pretty much became the Vancouver Canucks everydays for a good portion of their careers, and the Canucks defense just is not what the LA Kings defense was when Jack Campbell was there, nor is it what the Toronto Maple Leafs defense is right now. So for Jacob Markstrom, I mean, sure, the guy was a 4th place finisher in the Vezina voting in his last year in Vancouver when he had a .918 save percentage, but still, a lot of people would go out there and say that Markstrom was super underrated in Vancouver because the Canucks defense in front of him just was not giving him the opportunity to play at his best and make the amount of saves he needed to make. He had back-to-back 60-game years with Vancouver, each posting up .912 save percentages, and each having a losing record. They missed the playoffs in both of those years. Now he goes over to a team in Calgary that has a good defensive system, and guess what? He puts up a .922 save percentage, he's got 63 games played. Markstrom is just so clutch, he's so athletic, he's so antsy. That's arguably something you could say devalues his ability in net because sometimes he overcommits and he's over-aggressive with his movements, which opens up other lanes, but either way, Markstrom is still great. He developed and marinated in the Vancouver Canucks Utica Comet system, eventually was a mainstay starter, and now he's in Calgary. Thatcher Demko has had somewhat of a similar type of role in Vancouver. This entire time, he was the backup, eventually becoming the starter, splitting the load with Holtby, and Markstrom, I guess you could say, too, and finally playing a 64-game campaign in 21-22, where he had a .915 save percentage, and actually a positive record. That kind of surprises me. Demko actually had a higher save percentage this season than Jack Campbell did, and he did so in roughly less than 20 more games. Now, of course, Toronto is a much better team than Vancouver is, and I do like that Toronto decor a lot more than Vancouver's, but the pattern that you had seen with Demko and Markstrom with Vancouver was that there'd be so many games where they're giving up 30, 35, 40 shots against, and the goaltender has to go out there, make 42 saves in the night, and the team loses like 3-2 because they can't put the puck in the net themselves. This happens way too often in Vancouver, and it's been a pattern that admittedly was a lot better under Bruce Boudreau, but still kind of neutralized as the season went on. But at the end of the day, when it comes to pure talent and athletic ability, I'm going to go Thatcher Demko and Markstrom over Jack Campbell, dude. Even in the playoffs, Markstrom was lights out for Vancouver in the bubble against the Minnesota Wild, and then Thatcher Demko came in against Vegas and put up a .985 save percentage in 4 games played. Like, I like Jack Campbell and what he did against Montreal, but you're talking about goalies that lose series. How the heck are you going to beat a .985 save percentage and a .64 goals against average? Like, Thatcher Demko is an absolute boss, and we're starting to see now that Bubble Demko wasn't really a dream. Bubble Demko is just regular Demko, and I haven't even talked about Robin Lehner in this commentary, but I think he's better than Jack Campbell too. Let's go back over to that Thomas Drance tweet and see some of the replies. Pavel Bure goes out there and says, hey, no chance that Campbell being the best goalie in the Pacific tweet was a serious tweet, right? Drance says, I think it was, and what I'm trying to point out is that there is a decent statistical case to be made. Not one that I agree with, but there is a case for sure. And so, talk in the comments your thoughts about this idea here, the goaltender comparisons between Thatcher Demko, Jacob Markstrom, Jack Campbell. You want to talk about guys that can win you hockey games, guys that can keep you in a game, keep you in a series, keep you in a playoff run, guys that you would rather have in your team than other guys. Talk to me in the comments your thoughts about who the best goaltender is in the Pacific Division. I kind of align with Drance here on this one. I'd say that Lehner, Demko, Markstrom, some of the best in the league, some of the best in the Pacific, 3 of the best in fact, and then you could throw in a few other names in there too. John Gibson can have a good year once in a while. Jack Campbell is good, but he needs to show off that he can be a full-time #1 year-in, year-out starter because he has not been that in the same way that Demko and Markstrom and all of them have had over the past few years. So either way, there are great arguments all around. Talk in the comments your thoughts about this topic over here. Leafs fans as well, what do you think about this assessment? Do you think that Jack Campbell, the guy that you had for 2 seasons, is the best goalie in the Pacific? Oilers fans, do you think that he is as well? Because he's your guy, and you've seen a lot of Markstrom and Demko over the past few years, so what are your thoughts on this entire assessment? Talk in the comments your thoughts. I hope you enjoyed this video. Juraj, and bye.